Evening all. Vinny, are you going to kick off and then we'll go with the hands up system for anybody else? When you're ready, Vinny.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Chris. Does that kind of sum up the way things are going? Two big chances at one down and then a deflected goal takes it ultimately away from you?
Hey, listen, they're better than us. They're a better team than us, obviously. That, even though there's been a lot of chat and a lot of talk about how Liverpool aren't doing this and aren't doing that, it's still Andy Robertson and Trent, best fullbacks, best pair of fullbacks, not just in this division, but in European football. And he's still world champions, Vin.
Yeah.
Still world champions. It's still Thiago, Wijnaldum and Curtis Jones is a terrific young player. They've always produced really good young players, and it's still the front three at the top of the pitch. We try and make it competitive. I think always, from our point of view, our players have to play at the top of the form, which obviously, because of what's happened this year, is a real struggle for us, and obviously continuity in terms of team selection and options for us to pick a side to try and get an obviously against all odds result is quite difficult, and it has to be a perfect storm for us, and at the moment obviously it isn't. And we can look at the two goals. It's two, the first goal's a really disappointing one for us. We get to half time, Ramos has been great, Aaron Ramsdale's been great. He's going to always have to make saves against Liverpool. I should imagine 3/4 of the teams in this division, their goalkeeper has to play well against the likes of the front three, which he did. Get to half time, and we talked about make sure it's not an individual mistake that gives them the opportunity, and it was two individual mistakes that obviously opened it up, and had half chances that we've not taken, and disappointing goal for a second as well, and the gap is obviously huge at the best of times between both clubs, and it's even bigger when you give goals away like that.
What do you say to them in the dressing room then?
I've not really said an awful lot. I've just looked at the body language. They give everything for me, Vin, and they give everything for the football club. And at times, sometimes it's not enough just to run around and be competitive. And the gap is too big to bridge. You have to have that perfect storm, as I've said all along. We're never going to dominate possession. We're never going to, dominate opportunities. The new one in it, expected goals. We were never going to have more expected goals against Liverpool, regardless of what form they're in. But we have to try and bridge that gap, and they've put an enormous amount of effort in. They're running on empty. You look in their eyes, and they've given it a right go. And I think sometimes I can't be too critical of them when they're in that situation. As I said, the gap is huge.
Moving forward, then, how do you approach it now with the remaining games to come?
Right to the end, Vin, as they've done tonight. I don't think there was any white flags, flying tonight. They tried to get back into the game. They surprised me at times the way they go about it, because it's been a real tough gig this year, and we have to dust ourselves down, get back on the bike, and look at Wednesday as an opportunity of trying to get a result against a really good side that had a struggle last year, and obviously a lot happened in the summer. And gone again, and had an excellent, first 2/3 of the season.
It might not be the right time to ask you this, but I heard you speak to Pat and talk about the aim to finish 17th and the recruitment policy in terms of the players to achieve that. Does there, in some ways, need to be a rethink now, or is it too early to even talk about that?
A rethink for next year, or just an overall?
No, can you set your sights a little bit higher in terms of recruitment to bring in the kind of extra quality that you spoke about?
Because I think that only happens when sort of being realistic, Vinay. Even the most optimistic of staff, players, or Sheffield United supporters will think that this is quite a tough situation that we're in to get out of. But I have to be realistic as well. So, if that does happen, we've had 2 seasons where I imagine majority of people will think we've had one. So we've raised a couple of quid in that period. We've tried to invest in young players in case that we did take the drop, that we could come back strong. What the club needs to do now is keep hold of all the best players, and maybe, you know, add a couple in the summer and come flying back. And you know, that's not the worst model in the world. I'd love the model of somebody or taking it in another direction. But I should imagine most managers in my position or majority of clubs would like that opportunity. We've just got to be realistic that this is the way we are, and we have to stick to the plan. Hopefully, we will do, and regroup and go again. But certainly over the last dozen games of the season, we need to build some momentum and have a little bit of a feel-good factor about ourselves, and win some games. Is always something to play for, individually for those players, and for me as a manager, right the way to the last game of the season. It has got to be everything that they've absolutely got to see out the season.
Thanks as ever, Chris. Good to see you.
Cheers, Vinay. All the best, mate.
Nate.
Hi, Chris. I don't know if you saw the Newcastle lineup yesterday, but I wonder if looking at your squad today, just lacking that little bit of Premier League experience, weren't you? But I think under the circumstances, despite what you were up against today, they did give it a real go tonight, despite, obviously, before the ball had even been kicked, that team sheet being really up against it.
Listen, you know, the result don't get decided on team sheets, but, you know, you see the depth of some of the squads in the Premier League. And, you know, it's not being me critical of Newcastle. They've been even in the division. They even came out of the division, I remember, kept everybody and bounced back up. And I think it was under Rafa, was it? Rafa Benitez?
Yeah.
But when you look at, you know, the quality and the experience of Premier League experience that they've got, and we haven't, you know, a couple of kids on our bench tonight out the 23s, and the strength in depth, you know, our best players to the top of the form, and everybody scoring fit and healthy, then we have an opportunity closing the gap. When it isn't, it just makes it double difficult. I can admire and praise. I'm in it to win, as I've always been, and it's quite a difficult hand to play at the moment. But we're trying to play it. But that is club policy. What we talked about was as you know, and if the sort of situation which we all realistically think will happen, then regroup, keep, maybe add, and go again. And I think, you know, majority of Sheffield United fans will understand that. There's always a few that, you know, don't understand what is happening. But I think the signings that we've made, you know, over the period, Nathan, and, you know, everybody talks about the money that we spent. The signings that we've made have been of them young players to keep them together. And if they do take the route back down to the Championship, that they keep everybody together to go again. And you know, McBurney, the likes of McBurney and Zander and Ramsdale and Rhian will grow and flourish and come back stronger for this experience.
If you look at that back three, for example, up against arguably possibly one of the best front threes in Europe, I didn't think they did that bad. It must have been a real shame for you then that they just switched off a couple of times, and we know what happens at this level when they do that.
You know, our defensive record last year, Nate, was top draw. We didn't make the individual errors that we're making, so I can criticise them. But the continuity in terms of how we played and how we kept some really good sides quiet for the majority of the season to gain that record was obviously down to the continuity and the consistency in team selection, and where, you know, that 8, you know, gave us a platform to finish 9th in the league. And, you know, the more I look at that, the more I think it's such a remarkable achievement of what they did. Really, maybe it was taken a little bit for granted in certain areas by some people, that we would just roll up and do it again. And obviously it's difficult. Depth of the squad, as you see, Nate. Very, very little of Premier League experience. You know, our boys, which I've said all along, you know, without being too dismissive and disrespectful, have and are playing in the Premier League, but have not really got that Premier League look and feel about them at the moment, and have not really played 4, 5, and 6 seasons. And I think you just talked about Newcastle, who have been in the division for a long time, and you see, they've had injuries, and you still see, the strength in depth of their bench, and the likes of Brighton and the likes of West Ham, and majority, if not all, the teams in the division, even the Fulhams and even the West Broms, they're packed full of experience, Premier League experience, and unfortunately, we're not at that stage in this club progression and development.
Chris, the fans are asking me to ask you about Rhian Brewster these last 3 games and why he's not featured. Is it just been one of them where the games have just not been right for him?
Yeah, listen, it's a tough gig for Rhian. I'll explain when it's right about regarding Rhian. I've got, you've got a situation. You've got the best way of going about it tonight was to play, McGoldrick and McBurney. Then you get into a situation where, you try and bring a bit of pace on the pitch. Moveset's not 100% fit, and you've got a decision between him and the skipper. So I suppose the answer will be, if Rhian comes onto the pitch and the skipper doesn't, then why aren't you putting the skipper on? So I've always got them decisions to make. But as I said, the players that we've signed, Rhian Brewster, and I know there'd be a little bit of criticism out there about it, but I still think that'll come good. England under 21 striker, and maybe he has to find his form and his feet in another division. It was always going to be an introductory season for him. And if people think that, well, why did you spend that money? Then I'll possibly say, well, maybe availability and maybe wages might come into play on that one. But Rhian's going to be a player. We've got good young players at this football club. We keep everybody in, maybe do a couple of things off the pitch that we need to do to help these players. Then I'm sure that, we will see this season, obviously a disappointment, but we can learn from it and bounce back.
Chris, I haven't seen anything, but have you seen the goal? The first goal, was it over the line?
Yeah, I've seen it, and I think we've obviously made a mistake. It's a mistimed tackle, and then we've not stopped to cross, and then 2 players have thought he was going out and took that chance, thinking it was going out. And to be fair, at any level, they've played right to the end and seen it out, and we should have seen it out. And then we make another decision to not turn it behind for a corner and put it back into a dangerous area. And obviously it's a decent finish, but I think, we felt at times that it had gone out, but, looking back at the stills and obviously the footage from Sky, it's not, and we've been punished by it.
And last one for me, Aaron Ramsdale. Chris, how pleased are you for him? Not just tonight, but the last few games he's been excellent, but tonight he was absolutely top drawer in that first half.
He's going to have to make 3/4 of the goalkeepers in this division when you play against Liverpool, and you have to result after a result, and possibly a lot of teams in Europe as well. The goalkeeper has to play well. So he's done that, and he'll go about his business quietly. He's took the criticism on the chin and come roaring back, and he's producing good performances. And he won't get too high, because he's not an individual. He's a team player, and he'll be just as disappointed that we've not got a result as anybody.
Thanks, mate. Take care. All the best.
Cheers, Nate.
James.
Hello there, mate. Just in terms of that, you said that they'll learn from this experience, learn from this season. What will those young players take from this season?
Well, the place to be is the Premier League, because you're up against top players, and hopefully, crowds coming back. And you have to sometimes you have to take a backward step to move forward. And as I said, I've got a lot of good young players there that will learn. The likes of Bogle and Lowe, and as I said, Rhian and Ollie Mack, and Aaron. That's it's a decent group. Zanderberg, the bulk of the signings, the top end money signings. Even though still people come out and say, well, no, I understand it more than anybody. These are decent sized fees for Sheffield United spread over 3 or 4 years. As you know, the you know, it's not all up front. And from my point of view, you know, I brought £240 million into the football club. So I think to invest at you know 98 or 100 million in good young players, you hoping that they hit it off from the start. Sometimes it doesn't. Through, as you said, this season won't be defined on 2 young players. It'll be defined because the stuff that we can't control, you know, has gone against us. As you know, like you look at the team selection tonight and the players that we've got missing, and as well missed opportunities, big moments, and you know, there's no hiding place for those senior players as well that haven't played as well as they did last year. You know, it's all right sticking it on a couple of young players. You know, the senior players have not hit the heights and the form that they did last year. They have in parts, but take a step back to move forward, know where you want to be, stick together, work hard, and go again. I think that's been realistic in the position that we are, James.
Yeah.
I can't dress it up any other way. You know, the points, the games that we've got left, you know, it's and the form that we're in, it's, you know, it's I'm sure nobody would be critical of me by saying that obviously, you know, this is an incredibly tough situation to be in, and one that, you know, we don't look like we're going to get out of.
Brilliant. Well, not brilliant, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, mate.
Thanks all. Thanks for your time.
See you guys.